It's actually very common for adrenal fatigue, which conventional medicine will say adrenal fatigue is a myth. It's not real. It's your adrenals can't get fatigued. I don't care. All I know is it's a true thing. And you ask any woman that has lived through it, and she's going to say, absolutely, it's a real thing. Dizziness, heart palpitations, low blood pressure, low heart rate, very, very common with like stage 3 to stage 4 adrenal dysfunction.
Hey there, I'm Bria, and welcome to the Period Whisperer podcast. If you're over 35 and ready for real answers about your hormones, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and stay with us. Hey there, sisters. Welcome back to the Period Whisperer podcast. Today we are talking all things fatigue. Fatigue is one of the most common things I hear from women in midlife, and not just I stayed up too late, tired, talking about that deep, wired but exhausted feeling when you're still showing up for work, for family, for workouts, for responsibilities. But underneath it all, you feel like you're running on fumes. And I think the tricky part is that many high achieving women don't recognize it as burnout because they're still functioning. They're still getting things done. But over time, that constant pushing can lead to brain fog, hormonal chaos, mood swings, and really a body that just refuses to cooperate anymore. Today's amazing guest, Michelle McCoy, calls this high functioning fatigue and is something so many driven midlife women are silently navigating. Michelle is a board certified holistic functional health coach and host of the globally ranked Treasured Wellness podcast. After navigating her own experience with debilitating fatigue and burnout, she now helps exhausted women uncover the real root cause of their fatigue so they can restore their energy, mental clarity, and resilience. In this conversation, we're talking about the 3 types of fatigue midlife women commonly experience, the subtle warning signs of burnout most women miss, and the identity mindsets that can keep high-performing women stuck in exhaustion even when they're doing all the right things. So if you've ever felt like you're holding everything together but secretly running on empty, I think this is the episode for you. And now, Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bria. It's my pleasure to be here and help your listeners find some fatigue freedom.
Yes, I'm so excited. We were just kind of chatting before the episode, and I just want all the sisters to know, I mean, this woman has amazing energy. So I think you're going to find this to be a beautiful conversation. So I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for the time.
It's my pleasure. It's such an honor. And I can't wait for you to come on Treasured Wellness.
Yes, I'm very excited as well. So I always like to kind of start with your story just so people can understand, what your background is. But what was happening in your life when you realized that the exhaustion you were experiencing wasn't just normal tiredness, but maybe something deeper that led you to kind of dive into this area?
Yeah, it's a great question because so often us high achieving driven women, even though we don't look at ourselves as high achieving per se, we just know that we're getting things done because that's what we've always done. Right. So it's a great question because it wasn't a specific pivotal moment per se. It was like a slow build or a slow fade into the exhaustion, and which led to the burnout, what I call high functioning fatigue. So just to set the stage, I and our family had gone through a 3.5-year fiery trial. I call it the fire. And it was just a lot of stress. We had a lot going on. There's a lot of changes, challenges. We were in caretaker mode of an aging parent, which brings on a whole bunch of other challenges, working full time, still raising a family, and all of the things, right? And it wasn't, like I said, one pivotal moment where I just woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel really dizzy, or I feel really weak, or I feel really drained. It was a slow buildup. So during that time, I did notice my health was getting worse. I was getting more fatigued. I was struggling more in the afternoons. I was starting to do some of the things that I knew because of my background were not really going to help me, but I had to get through. So I started an afternoon coffee habit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, just we're just trying to get through. But it was just a one kind of, you keeping one foot in front of the other, right? You're just moving forward, getting through the day, just trying to get through the day. But I will tell you, it was the dizziness for me that finally laid me down. It really brought me down. There was a time where I was cooking dinner. I would stand after a full day of work. I'm standing at the stove. I'm cooking dinner. And I kept having to turn everything off because this wave of exhaustion and dizziness would overtake me. And I was like, I have to lay down. Like I literally had to lay down. I had to put my feet up and I would have to do that for 15 minutes, get back up, start cooking again. And this was kind of what really brought me to like, this is not normal. Like I can't keep functioning this way. Something's not right because I just continued to push on and push forward and just keep getting through. Right. So there's a verse in the Bible in Psalm 23 where I reference it with my clients because they so relate to this as well, that God literally made me lay down, because in Psalm 23, it talks about how he makes us lay down. And that was my aha moment when I am standing at the stove and I'm not able to cook and finish a meal, finish cooking without laying down 2 or 3 times. Mind you, we'll get into this later too, but I was of the mindset of keep going, keep going, keep going. And so if I were laying down when my husband's car pulled in the driveway, I would jump right up.
Yeah.
Because I had to look like I was doing something.
Yeah. There's so much there. Like that's a incredible story. And I assume obviously talking to you now, like you have unwound what brought you here. And that, why you're so successful, what you do. But it's amazing to me that it takes like practically fainting while you're cooking dinner 3 times in order for us to be like, oh, something might be really wrong here. Right. There's a lot of whispers and messages from our body, I think, before we hit that point. But
absolutely.
Do you find that dizziness, like that kind of dizziness, is common as a sign of burnout or unique?
It's actually very common for adrenal fatigue, which conventional medicine will say adrenal fatigue is a myth. It's not real. It's your adrenals can't get fatigued. I don't care. All I know is it's a true thing. And you ask any woman that has lived through it, and she's going to say, absolutely, it's a real thing. So it is a very common symptom of adrenal dysregulation. Let's call it dysregulation instead of fatigue. It's a very common symptom. And at that point, once I finally was like, something's not right, and I started doing a deeper dive into my own care, I stopped putting Band-Aids on my symptoms and pushing through. I realized I couldn't continue caretaking. I couldn't continue doing the things that I needed to do if I was feeling like this. So once I realized what was really going on, I was like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense, because it's very common: dizziness, heart palpitations, low blood pressure, low heart rate, very, very common with like stage 3 to stage 4 adrenal dysfunction.
Yeah. It's a funny thing where we struggle, and I work with a lot of high achieving women as well. And I mean, I'm right there with you. Like I have been frustrated in my life with my inability to keep pace with where I once did. And I don't know if you find it, but I think maybe we were never meant to keep that pace. But we've just kind of run out of steam. We've run out of that bank account of energy that's there for us.
You said it. That's it. That's exactly it. We were never designed to be on autopilot. We were never designed to be the Energizer Bunny. Yeah. That was never our design, And when the Superwoman complex came out and everything was Pinterest, we have to Pinterest. Our 1-year-old needs a Pinterest birthday party. They'll never remember it. Like
I know. It's crazy, and the pressure that's there. So when you say high functioning fatigue, like, is this a part of what that means for you? Or like, what does this mean that's different from being just tired?
Oh, great question. Because it is so different than I just need to sleep in on Saturday, right? It's living in a continual state of exhaustion. Okay. My definition, living in that continual state of exhaustion, because you're still living. You're still getting things done. You're still running those meetings. You're still traveling for business. You're still serving at church. You're still feeding your family. You're still doing the thing. But it's a tired that is so maybe even bone weary, exhausted, where sleeping in on Saturday doesn't fix, or a vacation doesn't fix. And certainly more caffeine and sugar does not fix. And so this is where it across the board, it affects women who are high achievers, driven, they're getting things done, even if you, again, don't consider yourself high achieving, right? Because it's just been your way of doing. It's just what you've always done. Like, I've just always been this way, right? I just always get things done. I'm always the one that people rely on. Working that job, caring for a family member, right? Being a caretaker role, serving in your communities, all of those things, we are driven to keep on going. And so this can affect the six-figure corporate woman, the woman who owns her own business, the mom who has a daycare full of kiddos, the grandma that's watching her grandkids, homeschooling, everybody. And the sandwich generation, we cannot forget the sandwich generation, right? So you still have kiddos at home, you've got aging parents. That's a whole other struggle in life for women in midlife. So what happens is, because we're wired this way, because we are driven, we're givers, we're doers, we often keep going through the tired, through the fatigue, through the brain fog, through feeling all of these other physical symptoms like belly bloating, digestion is off, maybe even losing your energy for life, energy for joy, for things that you used to enjoy, right? It's really just kind of at the expense of our own health. So we're high functioning, we're fatigued, we're getting things done, and yet we're still feeling all of these things. I have a client who is a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and she experienced all of this and more before we started working together. And that's a stressful position right there. CEO of a Fortune 500 company, plus a family that she loved and serving that she did and a side business that she had. And so we don't have to be working 50 plus hours a week to be experiencing high functioning fatigue. And that's the point I want to get across. Women think that they have no choice but to keep on pushing through. But high functioning fatigue will lead to burnout if it's not addressed, because these chronic stress levels lead to increased inflammation, increased fatigue, increased brain fog, and the body is giving us signals all day long. So this is what I help women overcome, this high functioning fatigue, so they can stop surviving, especially in this midlife season, because by the time we come to midlife, we have decades that we have been surviving. And well, maybe not decades surviving, but like we hit this midlife stage and we feel like we're just surviving, because what we once used to be able to do takes longer now. And so God really does intend for us to live in good health. And so utilizing some of the practices and the protocols inside my program, like the Fatigue Freedom Framework, women know what to focus on, when to focus on it, as they are learning to tune in and listen to their body better, because it's all about really, what does your body need? It can't be one size fits all. We have to learn to listen to our body individually.
Yeah, it's so bio-individual.
Yeah.
I love that you call out the fact that a lot of us don't even realize we're high achieving women, because I don't know about you, I'm willing to bet that you will agree with me on this. In the 20 years that I've been in women's health, I have never met a lazy woman. Like, I have never met someone who I like, you need to hustle up. I think.
Right. And never.
Yeah. So I think for anyone listening who is like, well, I'm not, haven't, because I think this idea of high achieving might go hand in hand with the thought of like ambition or something. But if you've never thought of yourself as the other, it doesn't mean you're not accomplishing Olympic levels of output. And that is, I think, what we're talking about here today, like the constant going. And I think one of the biggest signs that I have noticed in myself, and I notice in my clients, is really what you were saying there, is like the inability to find joy where you once found joy, I think is a really big sign. But are there other, so we talked about dizziness, like I think that's a big one, but for you, what are some other, maybe some early warning signs? So even for those listening, I think for those listening who know I think you can spot this in yourself pretty quickly. If you're feeling very joyless and like it's a grind every single day, if it feels like Groundhog Day, that's a pretty clear sign. But what other signs do you think women often overlook?
Yeah, the body's always whispering, right? The body, it starts out whispering and then it starts getting louder and louder, right? So we do tend to overlook or normalize some of these whispers, like fatigue upon waking. We're just, did I even sleep last night? I don't know. Like, I just feel like I'm so exhausted. I can't get up. I'm hitting snooze 3 times, right? Yawning all day long. Just clear little signs, like simple that we just ignore. Joint pain, increased joint pain. You mentioned lack of joy. That's huge. The desire, this kind of goes along with lack of joy, the desire to stay home more and to just kind of skip socializing, skip, events. I've had so many women say, I couldn't do it. I just didn't have it in me. I had to say no, or I had to decline, or I had to just not show up. And all of these things, not entertaining women that used to love to entertain. And now they just don't want anybody in their house. Dry skin. Dry skin's a great tangible that your body is on high alert and you're stressed out and you're just functioning. In menopause, women that are in perimenopause or menopause, they're feeling like these are just symptoms that are related to that. So they're just like, I just have to deal with this. This is my lot in life. I just have to get through menopause, right?
Yeah, but it's not. And I love that you said that because I think that, one of my biggest messages, it's like, I think we want to honor this huge transition in women's life for sure. I only work with women in this age bracket. I think that's a little bit about where you're at. 80% of the women I work with have issues really more in adrenal or gut than they do with their sex hormone production or balance. So
yeah, for sure. And really because we're doing everything right, maybe quote unquote, right? We tend to get confused because we're exhausted, we're foggy brain, we're irritable, we're lacking in joy and motivation, not to do our job, but to do all the other things we used to enjoy. Oh, we'll have motivation for our job.
yeah,
For sure, but it's those other things. And, you're just still feeling off, but women do tend to think, oh, it's just how it is. So the body is communicating. And I feel like there are three main ways that the body tends to communicate that women pick up on. And one is like sensory struggles. This was huge for me. And I have to say, even though I've completely recovered and healed from stage 3 adrenal fatigue, this is something that is a big symptom signal that my body lets me know when it's time. Like I'm getting close to that threshold. So it's sensory struggles like startling with loud noises or not liking to be touched or hugged. More pronounced eye fatigue. A lot of us are looking at a screen all day long and we're just struggling earlier in the day with eye strain, eye fatigue. That's all sensory. There are some more, but then there's emotional and mental struggles that we have, like more insecurity, more self-doubt, more maybe even self-dislike, focusing more on our flaws and our failures.
yeah,
It seems to be easier to do that than our wins and our successes. Tasks are more overwhelming. They feel like they're taking longer. Our processing is a little bit harder. We have more overwhelm. We're more mentally foggy. We have more frustration and irritability. And then we've got the physical struggles. And I talked about some of them, but a lot of too with the high functioning fatigue is you're tired but wired.
yeah.
Like you can't fall asleep at night because you're so wired. Your brain is so on.
Wow.
Or you fall asleep quick, but
Yeah.
then you're up at 1 a.m. every single night. 1 a.m., 1 to 3, 1. Yeah, always, always, always. So that's a problem. Waking up exhausted in the morning, joint pain, muscle pain.
Yeah.
And the increased reliance on like caffeine, sugar, like what I was doing. I became the coffee maker in the afternoon because I had to get through to see the rest of the patients for the rest of the day, right? We reach these things and we don't even realize that these are coping mechanisms that we have created to help us survive the day and get through the day. And then conversely, sleep aids, wine at night, taking sleep aids, comfort snacking. right, at night to help us fall asleep because we are so wired.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's important to track what your body's telling you. And it's just data.
Yeah.
It's just data. Like, don't look at any of what you're feeling, thinking, writing down as judgment.
Yeah.
Like, it's just data. It's important information. You're tracking and collecting data all day long at work. So, tracking how you feel is vital to helping you reverse those symptoms that and the signals that your body is giving you.
That's an amazing point that you bring up, because I think, as mothers, which not everyone is, but for those who are, or even caregivers, I think we recognize in the people we care for that we pay attention to these data points that you're talking about.
Right.
And it's not a failure. It's not a judgment. It's like, let's
No.
look at these patterns. And yet we get a little too busy, I think, to look for that in ourselves. And sometimes it's just hard, I think, to look for that in ourselves. So this is where I think coaching can be so powerful for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need someone to be like, nothing is wrong with you. We just have to see like the messages that your body is telling us so routinely. So that's a valuable point for everyone listening, is collect some data for sure.
Yeah, and that's true. That's so vital. And it's something that it's a piece I was missing when I was tracking. Like, I was tracking what I was eating. I was tracking, how often I was going to the bathroom. I was tracking how often I was working out, but I wasn't tracking necessarily my symptoms, right? So going back to my story where I had to go lay down from cooking dinner, my heart palpitations, my dizziness, that tired but wired feeling, I had like this humming. I don't know if you know what I mean when I say humming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this underlying humming in my body. And so I knew what to eat nutritionally. Like, I knew with my second fatigue crisis, but I still ended up with a really bad fatigue crisis that led me to stage 3 adrenal dysfunction and my burnout because of the stress that I was living in. And when I was tracking, I wasn't acknowledging that. I was ignoring some of my body's signals. I was putting band-aids on. I was pushing through because we keep going.
Yeah. I often think about this kind of health, stuff where we just put blinders on, kind of like, financial stress and like credit card debt. It's like, oh, I'm just going to not look at my finances and hope it gets
Right.
But you're absolutely right there. Like, we're so great as women at tracking our output, but not tracking our feedback and analytics. And I think like that's where the magic happens in like every CEO knows that. I think that you have to look at what's coming back, like the response and the actual analytics of a business or a body in order to properly progress and gauge its health.
Exactly. I don't know about you, Bria, but I've been in PT a few times in my life, physical therapy, and they are always doing progress notes, like every 2 weeks or something. We need to do our own progress notes. Where are we? Where do we want to go? What are the steps that we're going to take to get there? Which again is why coaching is so vital, so helpful, supportive. But it is just data.
Yeah.
It's not a failure on your part. It's because we could easily look at that. The world would have us keep us being so full of what we did not accomplish. It's just data, but it's important data that we take the time and do it for ourselves. It's a form of self-care. It really is.
Yeah.
Tracking your wellness is a form of self-care.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, I know you talk about 3 types of fatigue that midlife women commonly struggle with. Can you kind of touch on those or walk us through those, and so that anyone listening might identify with what type of fatigue they're in?
Yeah, this was so great because through my own personal experience, I realized that there are these 3 main types of fatigue. Since then, I've talked with a lot of women and they're like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. So I really hope that this is really helpful for your listeners, because it hit me that it wasn't just me experiencing these things and I didn't quite have words to say at the time. But physical fatigue is the most obvious, right? It's that low energy, daily exhaustion doesn't go away from taking a nap on the weekends. You have harder exercise recovery. A lot of women do not pay attention to that.
My goodness, no. And I've been there in my life, but sometimes if you're working out and one, you're not getting any results, I mean, there's a sign because you're not recovering. But if you feel
Right.
tense in the afternoon or after your workout, I mean, it's not working for you.
It's not. And because I work with women that are exhausted, they have these fatigue conditions, it is absolutely destroying your adrenals, putting more strain on your adrenals. And that was a mistake I was doing, like big time, because I wanted to work out for my mental health. And it's wonderful. So I help my women have different ways that they can still get that mental support, the mental health support, while not taxing their adrenals. But again, the sensory fatigue that I talked about earlier, too, more headaches, jumpier, to noises. I was very, very jumpy during that time, like to things that I was never jumpy before, too. And like very on high startle, high alert. It was very strange. My husband was like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, I don't know.
Is sensory a part of physical, or sensory is another one of the type?
Sensory is a part of physical.
Okay, so okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the physical, and then there's mental, emotional. I put mental and emotional together, mental, emotional fatigue. And this is where we're having the frustration, the anger, the sadness, the tired tears. I call them, you just
And with
break out in tears. Even if you're, at work, which, hello, it happens, you just go into the bathroom and you just break out in tired tears, you know.
yeah, that's a hard one. And sometimes I think when we come, and actually, I'd be curious your thoughts on this. When we're working on getting out of fatigue, like you've recognized you're there and you're coming out of it, I think there can be almost like a bit of a lunch bag letdown, in a way, like with how your body feels, where you can almost sometimes feel worse before you get better, or also mourn maybe that like cortisol high that you had for so long. Does that make any sense?
It makes total sense. The other thing that we mourn is while we're in the thick of it, we are desiring to rest. We are desiring to be still, but we don't know how. We don't know how. And because of the way we were maybe brought up, the way our high expectations of ourselves, all of these things, and we'll get into that. But
I know I don't want to derail you. I'm sorry. I'm excited to hear about that too. So you can go back
I
to
know
you've got physical, mental, emotional, and what's the third type?
spiritual fatigue. And I really strongly believe, as a Christian, I believe this is the most dangerous fatigue because it is that feeling tired and drained and exhausted and discouraged in your spiritual walk. Your soul is fatigued. Your soul is tired. Your soul is feeling drained. Your soul is needing refreshing. And this can come about from having that workspace mindset. I must do to please.
Mm,
I must do to really
about myself, that tying that productivity to self-worth is
absolutely. That's it. That's it. Not physically resting when your body who's giving you messages is telling you to. Um, Wrestling with God over something, like going through the fiery trial that I was going through. I did a lot of wrestling. Did a lot of wrestling because it was a fire. And then like avoiding time spent, like if you're an avid churchgoer and you just stop because it's easier to watch on screen. It's easier just to watch online, believing lies of the enemy, spiritual attacks from the enemy, questioning your faith, all of these things. In my own personal journey in coaching hundreds of women through their own fatigue, I know that this is the most dangerous type of fatigue we can experience. And especially as women of faith.
Mhm.
And at the umbrella of all of this is like chronic stress. Chronic stress impacts every single area of our lives, and it affects all three types of fatigue: the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Yeah. I mean, I think I see why you say it's one of the most dangerous because, faith in whatever you believe brings hope. And so when that gets fatigued, if there's no hope, I think that is really a scary place to be, isn't it?
Exactly. And the world in women's wellness is so loud, so noisy, and very much lacking in hope.
Yeah. It's very bossy out there and opinionated, I find. And not by, I don't mean necessarily by people. I just mean like the whole culture of it is very
Yes.
in that way.
Agreed. Agreed.
I love those. So now I feel like we can go back to what you were talking about. I think they're the four identity mindsets. Is this, you talk about these four identity mindsets that women adopt that can keep them stuck in fatigue. What are those and how do they show up?
First off, I've had all of these and I'm still working through. So this is not something that I have arrived on. And I don't think that we ever will necessarily. We are imperfect people. So the four identity mindsets that I have found are perfectionistic, where we are placing unrealistic expectations on ourselves. This kind of goes along with, because we did that, when others do that to us, we just readily like, okay, because we've adopted that on our own. So when other people put that on us, we just absorb it. We just take that. People pleasing, not setting boundaries, especially around our own needs. Like, what do I need? Like, have you ever asked and it's not in a selfish way, but it's like, okay, I had a really, really rough week. What do I need on this Friday night? Do I need to go out with the team, or do I need to say no and pour into myself and do some stretching and take a nice hot soak in the tub and just get to bed early and read a good book? So really not paying attention to our own self needs, having fear of rejection, wanting validation from others, which is, again, that's tough. It's tough. And a lot of these stem from childhood too. So this is not a one and done. It's just acknowledging it's data, it's information. And then push through is number 3. So just getting it done. You're just pushing through. No matter what, you're getting it done. You're checking the box. You're smiling on the outside, but you're like crying and dying a little bit on the inside because you don't have it, but you're still pushing through. So you're pushing through. Your productivity is a little bit less, but you're still getting it done. Like, it might take you longer, but you're still getting it done because you're pushing through. And then the fourth one is protection. This is where we put a bubble around ourselves. We struggle with trust. We don't delegate well. We have a hard time showing vulnerability. We're quite controlling. And so when we acknowledge these mindsets and when we adopt these mindsets, it does tend to keep us what I call sad, sick, and stuck in our health. And we're not free. We're not free in our health, which I want every woman to know that you can be free in your health because you are your own best advocate for your health.
What does free in your health mean to you?
Women are their own best advocate for their health. So that means that if you feel like you need to fire your doctor, you can do it. You have complete control over that. If you are not getting answers, if you are consistently being told that you are fine and you feel anything but, if you are being told that it's in your head, or you need an antidepressant, or you need to just move more, or you need to get more sleep, but there's no real answers, keep digging, move on. Don't just accept that as an answer. That's what I call a non-answer. But, you know, but, we aren't supposed to live this life sick. We're not supposed to be living this life
Uncomfortable
with less vitality. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I think it's a beautiful goal. I always end the podcast with be more in your life and not just less on a scale. And I feel like that body freedom or that health freedom really reminds me of, like, I think it should feel very light in your body most of the time. Like you've said a few times already. I think for practitioners like you and I, in some ways it is easier to be healthy because this is our livelihood. So we eat, sleep, breathe it. But we still go through these times where hormones change or life happens or a storm goes in the life and you're going to have dips and changes. So
absolutely.
I love that. That was a great explanation of being free. Thank you. Okay. So we've got these 4 identity mindsets. We've got perfectionism, people pleasing, push through, and protection. I think of 80% of my clients and myself who have all of these probably, or have had all of these.
Yeah.
That it's most.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, full confession, I'm still working on push through.
Yeah, yeah,
even after my second fatigue crisis.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah,
And I can even feel in my own mind, like the logical thing that comes up to us is like, well, it has to get done, right? Or
yeah.
if I don't do it, who will do
Who
it?
will?
Or what I will
Right.
have to do more later if I don't get it done now. Like there's a lot of pieces around that. So,
Yeah.
for the women who are listening that are recognizing themselves in one or all of these identities, what is the first step in starting to shift that mindset and really like get out of fatigue? Like how do we begin?
The first step is just acknowledging. Again, it's data. It's like, oh, that's why I do what I do. Right?
Mhm.
It's just acknowledge it because so often we just go through the motions and we don't really stop and listen. And we don't really stop and reflect.
Mhm.
For busy women, we don't like to reflect,
No,
right?
it's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time. I don't have time to reflect. But there's so much power in reflection. There's so much power in stopping, pausing. I call them sacred pauses, and just stopping through the day. And okay, this happened. I got really angry. I got really frustrated during this last meeting. What happened? Like, why? What was going on? Am I having some sensory fatigue? Am I having some what's going on where I am reacting this way instead of responding? We don't want to become reactors. And one thing I found in my own life and in all the women that I have helped coach is we tend to respond
Yeah.
in a way that is less than we want to respond.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
then guilt about it later.
exactly. So we're just reacting. We're like quick reacting. And part of it is honestly, we're used to putting out fires. We're used to answering calls all day long. We're used to running meetings, leading teams, and we're just used to go, 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 go. But then there's that moment where it's like we just react instead of respond. And so it's like that's good information. What is going on inside me? What is my body really needing? Maybe you need to go for a walk around your block. Maybe you need to block out. Here's a thought. Always take a lunch break.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, right.
I know. I know. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And this is like you and I, we have to practice what we're teaching for our own preservation, right? Like we have to. And do we always? No. There's times where we are leaning heavier into one thing, like a project, or we're leaning heavier into that. So we might be eating at our desk, right? We might not walk as much as we want to, but then we have to bring some harmony back into the body, back into our mind, body, and soul. And yeah, so the first step is just acknowledging it because that opens the door to help you walk through into your health freedom because the mind will keep us stuck.
Yeah.
Any thoughts that you have um, that are like a negative loop, that's going to keep you stuck. So you need to shift them. So, because I work with predominantly faith filled Christian women, we have a faith fueled mindset shift that we focus on. We're taking those fear focused thoughts and we're shifting them into faith fueled thoughts, because that changes our brain is neuroplastic, right? It can change, it can grow, it can heal. And when we hang on to the negative loop, it keeps us stuck. So we don't want to do that.
Can you tell me an example of what that's like? Just so, for those of us listening, we can understand like how do we change maybe a fear-based thing into a faith-based thought? Fear-based thought into faith-based thought. Is that what you're saying? Do I have that right?
Yeah, yeah. Fear focus. So we're focusing on okay, let me give an example. I am always going to be tired. I wake up tired. I'm tired by 11 a.m. I'm exhausted by 2. I'm so tired by 8 o'clock, but I can't fall asleep. I'm always going to be tired. So that's fear focus. You're focusing on the fatigue. You're focusing on the tired. This was me. Okay. So no judgment at all. This was me.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I turn to the Bible. What does God say? truly about that situation. It's the situation. Your situation is you're tired. What is the thought that you are thinking about being tired? And then what is the emotion that comes from that thought? And then that emotion tends to lead us into an action or an inaction. And then we end up with a result. So when we take truth, and again, for me, it's I turn to the Bible, I turn to God's word. What does he say is truth? And I find truth in his word, and then I apply it to that fear-focused thought, then I can shift it. It's like, no, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am not to be living in the state of fatigue, right? There's so many verses that come up. And so we just shift that thought, and then you walk that out. You don't hang on to the fear. You walk forward with the faith.
Yeah. So instead of saying like, oh, I'm always going to be tired. I'm tired all the time. Like I'm too tired to do that. So I'm just not going to do anything, which is sort of the action. We might think, okay, yes, I'm tired, but I am an imperfect human. I've accomplished a lot of things today. We can lean into a Bible verse that way or something that really connects with you. And then even if you don't take a huge action, I still would guess that is very calming for the body, which is fatiguing, right? Anything that's going to calm us, I think, restores energy, or at least stops the energy suck, doesn't it?
It does, because again, our mind is shifting and our mind wants to protect us. And so when we are holding on to the negative, it's just so much more than negative positive. But when our mind is holding on to the negative, it's going to keep us in that negative spiral. And we will spiral into feelings like, we're going to say words like always and never, which we know are counterintuitive, counterproductive.
Oh, it's a funny thing when you hear yourself say that. You're like, well, that's obviously not true.
Right.
Yeah.
But okay, so it's like a game. I did this just the other day with a family member, and she just started laughing. She said something really negative about herself, and I said, say 3 things really quick, really nice about yourself. And she's like, what? Like she had never heard that before, and she probably hadn't.
Yeah.
But it's like, we need to fix what you just said. We need to change that
Yeah.
and say 3 nice things about yourself. I did. I ran those meetings. I got that project done before the deadline. I wasn't like picking my kid up from school, like things, right?
Okay. So step 1 is to like awareness and acknowledgement. Step 2, do you call that like mindset swapping, or what do you call that there? Or you go from fear-based to...
For me, I call it advanced biblical mindset. Yeah. I've got a steer belief map that I walk them through.
And then what it would be the third foundational step?
I feel like we can't not talk about nutrition. I feel like we have to talk about nutrition.
Yeah.
So I like to keep things super simple. I like things to be doable, so that they are repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
If it's easy and doable, then, but I really believe that women in this stage of life, even 35 all the way up 65, 70, we're in a nutritional deficit. We're just really low in the nutrients and the minerals that our body needs. So just to keep things simple, hydration, water before coffee, always, forever, and always water before coffee.
Always. Mm-hmm.
Always. And then nutritionally, protein and healthy fat. Fat has gotten such a bad rap. I know you've talked about this, but fat is vital, right? And protein is vital. And good fat, not your Oreos, but good healthy fat, like avocados.
Yeah. Not just the junk that turns into fat in the body, but yes, the actual fat that your hormones are made out of.
Yes. And the brain needs fat. The brain needs fat. A lot of the brain fog that women are experiencing is simply due to these nutritional changes.
Not enough protein, not enough fat.
That's right. Not enough hydration. So I say water before coffee. I also say breakfast before coffee.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I know people get mad at me. I'm sure they get mad at you too.
Yeah. I think mostly I find my clients get mad at me when I'm like, you need to stop working out for a while. Because
that too.
Yes. If your workouts aren't working, I mean, why are you wasting your time? We should stop.
And you're draining yourself. You're literally draining yourself. Like picture just
Yeah.
like that balloon deflating.
Uh,
And then we're also in a rest deficit. So rest, I think those are the top three, I would say, is the hydration, nutrition, and rest. So creating a calming bedtime routine is really important. Uh, Stop doom scrolling right before you try to go to sleep.
yeah. Positive in before you go to bed. Positive in. Tell the body she's safe.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because we don't heal and recover if our body doesn't feel like it's safe. It needs to be safe. It needs to feel safe and secure. I mean, it just has to. So, yeah, that's huge. And when we're just doom scrolling or watching the news, oh my gosh, don't watch the news.
Like, no, 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 that's a whole other show and conversation.
It's a whole other, yeah.
And one, your energy is so beautiful. I see how you make such an impact in the lives of women. These are amazing tips that you covered. I love the 4 mindsets. I love the types of fatigue that you really organize it. And I think, like you said, make it nice and simple so we can repeat it. But have I missed anything today? Is there anything you'd like to impart on the women before we wrap up?
I really want you to walk away with hope. There's always hope. And just take in the fact that you are your own best advocate for your health and that you've got that intuition. You were created and designed to know how to help yourself and to help yourself heal and recover so you can trust yourself. Because how many times have we gone to a doctor? We know ourselves, we've taken our notes, and then it's been dismissed. Don't take that as truth. Okay. You still know yourself. You're not wrong. And I won't go into detail with my daughter's story, but that's what brought me into holistic and functional wellness is because she was so sick. It took 3 years for them to get to the root cause of it. They never did. I had to fire everybody and leave the state and find a holistic practitioner who helped us. Nobody should have to go 3 years not getting better, not feeling better, not having answers. And everything I said was discarded, discounted, right? Like it's not true. Like we're the experts. And that can be comforting, but also can keep us stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trust yourself. There's always hope.
That's amazing. I love that. I know you have a gift that we can share with the audience. How can you tell us about that? And also how we can get into your world for anyone who listened today and really just wants to be in your energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a blueprint. It is called Fatigue Freedom Over 40. You can go and find that on treasuredwellness.com/blueprint. I would also love to have you come hang out with me at the Treasured Wellness podcast, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And then you can also check out my website if you want to even connect even deeper, treasuredwellness.com. And hey, message me if you have any questions after this episode, Michelle@treasuredwellness.com. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I will put all of these links are in the show notes below. So go and get into Michelle's world. I'm grateful to be in it. And thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your insight. I really appreciated it today. Thank you, Michelle.
Oh, my pleasure. It has been such an honor, Bria. Thank you.
Sisters, I think you have so much more hope and knowledge as tools to be more in your life and not just less on a scale today. So go and take one action, and maybe that should be rest. We'll catch you in the next episode. If you're 35 plus and ready to stop guessing, start understanding your hormones, and feel your absolute best, hit subscribe. That's what we do here.